It is on. Alright, so day 2, session 1. It felt really good. There was a ton of traffic, but I really worked on my line. The instructor said turn 1, going to turn 1, and it's good, but turn 2, I'm going in a little bit too early, so I need to work on turn 1, exit, into turn 2, into turn 2, exit, lining up for 3 and 4 feels really good for me so far. And then I think it's turn 5 that I said I had a good line, but I'm still kind of practicing a little bit. But either way, it didn't matter. So last night I ended up replacing the thermostat with the stock thermostat because I saw some seeping around the thermostat housing, and I found that the Mitsumoto thermostat that I threw in there was too small. So you know, whatever, no big deal. Temps look fine on the car. If the temps start to creep up a little bit, I'll just take the thermostat out completely and then just run it like that. Open thermostat or no thermostat is better than having a stuck thermostat closed. So I also bought 2 clamps, one for the intercooler hose going into the intake, and then the hose clamp just before it, so it's just a big elbow going into the intake. I would like to find a hard pipe, an actual hard pipe, so I might actually swap out the intercooler piping at some point in the future, but that's future problems. For right now, I think we're doing pretty good. The car seems to be running a lot better. I think I topped out this morning at 117, I want to say, according to the car, but I'm not really worried about how fast. No, probably close to like 125 or so. Yeah, give or take. It doesn't matter. I'm more worried about the skill set that I'm building than I am how fast I'm going. I don't look down at the speedometer. I look at the tachometer to see how the car is doing. But anyway, the car's starting to go, so stay tuned for more. Alright, as you can clearly see behind me, the hood's closed on the Evo, the car is in one piece, and we were able to successfully take it to our track day, our very first track day in fact, at Rolling Road. You can see up there in that corner, got my novice run group sticker on there. So we'll do a quick walk around the car and see exactly what the issue was. I tell you right off the jump, it was a very, at least for me, it was a very complicated problem because I was chasing down multiple faults at the exact same time. But the good thing is that we got it together. We got the car back in one piece. It did great on the track, and now I have some ideas of exactly what it is I want to do with the car, more so in the way of heat management and not necessarily power. So let's do a quick walk around of the car and show you guys exactly what happened. Okay, so as you can see here, I opted to go back with the stock plugs and stock coil packs. This is a what's called a wasted spark setup, where it's got one coil pack controlling multiple spark plugs at the exact same time. On the Evo, it's a 4-cylinder engine, obviously, so you have 1 coil pack for every 2 plugs. Here's a plug, here's a plug. And on the number 1 and number 4 cylinder, you have its coil plug for number 4 and number 1, and this is the 2-3 cylinder pack pair. Okay, so other than that, right down in here, you can see my blue paint lines. That's when I marked the throttle body to make sure I get the spring, the throttle body tension spring on there in the right orientation. You can see this is not the stock clamp. I had to pick these up because I kept popping this intercooler pipe off while I was at the track, because the car makes things like 24 pounds of boost, so it was quite a lot of pressure going through here, and the stock clamps just weren't up to snuff. Down and through here, you see these 2 vacuum lines going to the throttle body. I had to trim those up. There's a slight vacuum leak in there. If you're wondering why I had to mark this in the first place, I marked it because I rebuilt the throttle body seals. They weren't really necessarily leaking, but I went ahead and redid them anyway, just to be on the safe side. And it's kind of hard to see down in there. Maybe you'll see it, probably not. Probably can't get the camera to focus. Oh well. Hang on, let me try something real quick. So it's very hard to see, but down in there underneath the intake is the throttle body seal. Not throttle body seal, the intake air. Wow, okay. I should know this by now because I've replaced it like 4 times. So the idle air control valve underneath there is the idle air control valve. I had to replace that because it was faulty on the old one. The old one was faulty, so I put a new one on there. Okay. So while I was in there, I went ahead and replaced the throttle body seals, the intake air, or the idle air control valve. Man, one of these days I'll figure out how to say it correctly. Anyway, the idle air control valve got replaced, throttle body seals get replaced. I trimmed the lines on those vacuum lines to the throttle body because they were slightly leaking right around and through here. Hang on, and pointer, there we go. I just trimmed it up just a little bit right there. And then I got better clamps. I'm actually going to put a different style of clamp on there just to make sure I hold everything in there. I am going to get a different catch can. This catch can really essentially does nothing. But you know, stock motor, stock power. Went ahead and replaced the air filter. I cleaned the MAF sensor, the mass airflow sensor. When I cleaned it, I resealed the thermostat. See if I can get you guys enough light. The thermostat in there, I went ahead and resealed it. I tried to put a Mishimoto in there. Tried to put a Mishimoto thermostat in there, but it actually didn't fit correctly, so I went with the stock one. The car didn't overheat. It was just fine. The 4G63s aren't really known for overheating. Speaking of overheating, I flushed the coolant. I'm actually going to replace this radiator. There's nothing wrong with it. I just have a Mishimoto radiator that I picked up for cheap, so I'm just going to throw it in there. It's no big deal. But then I also obviously have the covers back on there, but I went ahead and retimed the engine. Retimed the engine, put new water pump in there. So new water pump, new timing belt, new accessory drive belt, and new spark plugs. Oh, and also put a new fuel pump in there. I put a Walbro 255 instead of the stock 215 in there, just to eliminate any issue with the fuel pump, because when I did idle the car, it didn't sound like the pump was actually running at full strength. I don't have a set of gauges to test the fuel pressure, but you know, 255s are like 80 bucks a pop, so I just went ahead and threw one in there anyway, and that'll give me at least a little bit of room for growth in the future. I'm not going to go E85 on this car. It's just too hard for me to find, especially with my schedule and where I go and what I do for my day job. I just don't have the time to go and hunt down the single E85 pump in my area and go there all the time for when I go to the track. So other than that, the car seems to be doing very well. So let's do a walk around of the car and show you exactly what the results were of my time. While I was at Rolling Road, I managed a 411, so 1 minute 32 seconds .4. That was my first time or my fastest lap at Rolling Road, and there was a lot more time left in the car. I knew it. I just I didn't have the tires, and coming out of turn 2 into turn 3, and that left-hander into the turn 4-5 area, I just didn't have the confidence in the car. But that's okay. It was my first outing, so you know, whatever. We live and we learn, and we're gonna go to another track day hopefully soon. And yeah, so while we're at it, let's go and do the walk around of the car. So as you can see, Nava sticker still on there. I started to peel it off, but I gotta go ahead and get a scraper on there. 918, that's my number, at least the number that I chose. And then of course, you know, I got the wrapped Alcantara steering wheel, factory steering wheel with a Alcantara wrap. So you can see here the tires, they started to delaminate, and you actually see the cords a little bit here. And this happened on the very last session. I had a little had a little off-track excursion, overcooked it coming out of turn 2, and instead of like trying to save it and stay on track, I just opted to go off because Rolling Road is so flat. So you know, you really can't get in too much trouble at Rolling Road. But we also ended up we're going to order some new factory rotors and pads, and then I'm going to flush the brakes out again with fresh fluid. It's got DOT4 in there. You can actually run that on the street, but I'm going to go back to DOT3 just for street driving until I go to the next track day. Now, the one thing that happened with the car that I'm not very happy about is the side of the car caught my awning. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm not like super upset about it. You know, things like that happen. The wind just picked up and I didn't have the awning tied down tight enough. Luckily, the people who were there were able to help my wife catch the awning. I was actually changing her oil on her car because she met me at the track, and she was getting on the road back to go home, and I was under the car, so I didn't see the awning fly up. But luckily, nobody got hurt. No other cars got damaged, just mine. And it's just in the clear coat, so that'll come out pretty well, fingers crossed, fairly easily. The funniest thing, however, is that I guess, yeah, window deflector, no window deflector. This is what's left of the passenger window deflector. So I'm actually going to take, I don't really like them anyway, so I'm just going to go and take them off. And you're going to see this one here is peeling up. It's just held on there with that 3M tape. So, which is, you know, pretty good stuff otherwise, but it's just not the time I'm going to spend bothering with that, because I don't need them. It's just, I mean, it's cool to have the window open, but whatever. That's irrelevant. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace the radiator. We're going to refill the system with fresh coolant. We're going to put brake fluid back in there, and it's going to be a multi-day thing. I just don't have the time to do it all at once, but it's no big deal. So, you know, picked up a radiator, and then we also are going to prep ourselves to rebuild my spare transmission for this car with carbon synchros. So I'm waiting on a flywheel. COVID's kind of messed everything up, so whatever. I'm waiting on an XZD flywheel for a stock style replacement clutch. It's not made to handle crazy power because I have zero intention of making crazy power. And then we're also going to relocate this battery into the trunk for just cleanliness of the engine bay. That's probably the best way to describe it. And it's also going to help us with a little bit of weight distribution. So when I relocate this to the trunk, that'll actually allow us to take the intercooler piping from here and go straight into the intake, and that'll free up some more space so that we can move this. We can get a proper oil catch can and mount it somewhere down in through here, because the piping will be cleaned up. And then just for kicks, we're gonna get a short ram intake. But you know, these are future problems. Building a car is never a one-shot deal. You buy everything, and if you're like me, you're going to try and sit on your parts as long as you can until you have everything. That way you can do everything at once. But it's a process, and we're going to do what works well for us, and we're improve where we can. Oh, also, speaking of heat management, right? So you see how I put gold tape here? This is just to protect the headers, because well, the valve cover really from the headers, because the headers get so hot. I have more gold tape. We're actually going to wrap, when I get intercooler piping, we're going to wrap the intercooler piping with gold tape, and then we're going to heat wrap the downpipe. We're going to heat wrap the downpipe underneath the car so that it doesn't literally cook the oil pan. And because I plan on getting a baffled oil pan soon, as a precaution, I don't think I'm pulling so many G's that all oil is going to slosh out of the car, because I'm just not that fast of a driver yet. I feel like I'm getting quicker and quicker every time I go, and every time I practice, and every time I watch playback videos. Speaking of playback videos, unfortunately I did not get my GoPro to work in time, but whatever. So yeah, so I want to put a baffled oil pan in there just to protect the block as long as I can. And then hopefully we can actually get a spare engine. That's what I'm hoping for. So lots of things in the works here. Sorry for the crazy camera angles. Oh, if you haven't noticed, I'm wearing my branding. So I got some hats, and I got some t-shirts. This also comes in color. So stay tuned for that reveal later. But I'll keep you guys as updated as I can with this car. I absolutely love it. I had a blast, and I learned so much about my driving style and what cars are truly capable of on the track. And I look forward to getting this track car done and built the way I want to, so that we can just absolutely crush lap times on track and hopefully compete. That's my goal for this year and next year, is to actually compete. So, well, bye for now.
Can't stop me. I just hold on for dear life. Yeah, I can't give up this feeling that I get when I get down from this high.